I vividly remember in my stats class, like I was like probably a few months in, and they're talking about this freaking huge long ass equation on the board, and I'm like, bro, what's going on? Like I am so lost. And then I got to the point where, like I remember where it's like it just snapped at me, and I'm looking around. I started laughing, and everyone's like, "What the fuck? Like, what was he laughing about?" And I was like, "Man, fuck this shit!" Like out loud, and I just left. And then like I think like a month later, that's when I quit my job and I took off to South America. Um,
Wow. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of How to Copy and Steal. Today is a dope episode. I am sitting down with someone that I've I've had my eye on you for a while, like since like the In the Frame podcast. Like I noticed you were interviewing a lot of people that were in like what I consider my creative community, and we've had this overlap. And low-key, I've been inspired by this person, just seeing them go on their journey, especially this year, like when he decided to go, full like head on into his own content. And it burned the fire under me, on top of like having a kid on the way. But today I am here with Alberto Mendoza.
Thanks for having me, man.
um what's the name of your business?
It's just Alberto Visuals. It's really plain, nothing too extravagant, anything like that. It's just really just Alberto Visuals.
Dope.
But I don't really. That's pretty much it.
Dope.
It's like my corporate title, I guess. If you want to,
Dope.
if someone would introduce, if I were to introduce myself to somebody, I'm like, hey, what's your company name? Just Alberto Visuals, which I don't love right now, but it's just getting started right now for the moment.
I get you. I get you. It's funny. I was giving Zeke some shit in the last podcast too, because he's like visuals by Zeke Kitchen, and I was just like, it's very vague. Like it doesn't like drive you into a certain niche.
Yeah, just the whole visuals or media or create, it's just so overkill. But it's like, what else can you say? You
Hmm.
know, so it's like, I mean, I've had that name for the last 3-4 years. So I'm just kind of riding the wave. And like, honestly, even if I did want to change it, like, it's just the whole paperwork of changing it legally is just going to be a hassle. So I'm like, it's one of those, like, I'll just leave it as is
You
for
could,
right now, for the moment.
yeah, you could do like a. This is something that we do because originally we started as Copy and Steal Productions, and like I went through. I don't know if you know a person named Chris Doe by chance.
Yes.
So we did like a business boot camp for him, and with him, and basically he just like tore our business name apart. He was just like, what the hell does this mean? Like, this doesn't tell me anything about your business. And he was the one that kind of helped us pivot to a live studio. He was like, just focus on live, focus on the fact that like you guys don't edit. And that's where a live studio was birthed. And then I winded up just adopting Copy and Steal to the content that we do and like
And it's
how
like a
we
whole
think.
separate entity and
Yeah,
stuff.
but
Okay.
it's still Copy and Steal Productions, but there's something called a DBA, doing business as. And as long as you create a DBA, you can name your business whatever you want to name it. And, your LLC or whatever you do is like the original name.
Yeah, bro, like the whole like business thing, like it's still very foreign territory to me, man. It's like what you were just saying right now, explaining to me right now, it sounded like a foreign language to me. That just shows like how little I know about the business in a way. So it sometimes is like mind boggling, like how I'm able to create for these businesses and brands at a high level without me knowing shit at the same time. So I'm just still like, I'm still figuring things out as I go right now, man. So it's like when people come and approach me, like, dude, how do you do A, B, C, and D? I'm like, bro, I don't know, man. I just figured it out.
Yeah.
Little YouTube video. How do you do this? How do
Hey,
you do that?
that's
I
my
learned how
shit.
to freaking change the oil in my Jeep by YouTube. How do you change the oil in a Jeep? And it showed me step by step, and that's how I do things, man.
Yeah.
So
Nah, I love that YouTube University shit. Like, honestly, the barrier to entry for anything has gotten so low now that we have these supercomputers in our pockets.
yeah,
And like, I feel like coming up in a generation where you like got to see all this hit, like sometimes we can take it for granted and we can feel stuck. Meanwhile, like there's definitely a video out there. There's definitely a video with a personality out there
any
that will
niche you could
jive with
think of,
you.
there's something out there for you. Like if you want to learn real estate, if you want to learn stocks, if you want to learn how to freaking put on a cabinet on your kitchen. There's somebody out there that's creating content for that specific niche. So it's like I always say there's no excuses, man. If you really want to know something, the answers are out there right now. We're living in the greatest time ever where the information is so accessible.
Hmm. And what I love that, like, not only is the information out there, but it's out there in whatever way you can absorb it best. If you're a reader, like, there are blogs out there for you. If you're a watcher, like, there are whole videos out there for you. If you know, speak a certain language, there's people out there that are speaking your language trying to teach you these things.
Right.
And it's
Yeah,
only going to get better as AI comes out.
yeah, for sure. Because I personally am a visual learner, hence why I am a videographer. I hated reading as a kid, and I still don't love reading, but I'm still trying to train myself to like learn to love to read. And I still read daily, but like we're talking like 5 to 10 pages max because I just do not like it.
Yeah.
But I love listening to audio podcasts, audiobooks, and obviously visual stuff like tutorials and whatnot on via YouTube. So yeah, YouTube. If you see my screen time on my phone, it's just disgusting. But it's for the most part, it's literally like all YouTube.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way here. Like, I used to pay for YouTube Premium until things got a little tight, but I definitely want my YouTube Premium back because I'm tired of these
What are
ads.
the okay? So that's literally the pros. It's just the no ads
No
because the
ads.
ads are. I hate ads,
Yeah,
man. Like I
no
just hate
ads.
ads. Like I don't know. I'm not to the level where I could monetize the channel, but like if I ever can, I don't know if I want to put ads because to me, I just hate it so much. But I understand why people do it because some people just need the bread, and I understand. I totally get the logistics of figuring trying to get that going, but I just hate ads so much. But premium is just literally zero ads, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's worth the cost.
It is just because, like, you just
What's it like, 50
oftentimes,
bucks a
like,
month or something like that?
no, no,
Or
no, no. It's
oh,
like,
okay.
I think it's like $10 or $12 a month, and like, it's just one of these things where, like, ads are so, like, smartly placed now that, like, you'll be like getting into meat of your video, and just they know, like, your attention's here, so
Mm-hmm.
ad goes here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, it
I'm
just
I'm
ruins
so
those
bitter.
moments.
I get to the point where if I see an ad, I'll literally mute my phone for like or 60 seconds or whatever. I'm like, I'm not gonna listen to it, man. Like you're not gonna get my dollars. But that's just me being a hater though.
No, that makes sense. I mean, sometimes it could be the difference between, like, you following through with a tutorial and you just, like, giving up because,
Hmm.
like, the ad comes in at the wrong time and you're just like, well, I got something else to do, and now you're going down a different rabbit hole.
I know I know I'm gonna go a little off topic right now, but like so I have Peacock TV,
Okay,
and it blows my mind that people pay for Peacock TV and there's still ads in the platform itself.
bro.
I wanted to watch a movie, I forget, like a couple nights ago, and before the movie starts, it gives you a timer of how many seconds of the ads are going to be going through, and it was like 150 seconds. I'm like, bro, it's over 2 minutes of just ads. Like, why am I paying for Peacock when there's freaking ads there, man? I just do not get that streaming services.
Yeah,
Again, that's just me being a hater, and
bro. The
I
hate
just hate
away,
ads.
bro. Fucking Hulu was the first one that started that
Yeah,
bullshit, and it's just like, bro, the whole point was to cut the cord, like, with
but at
cable.
least Hulu is a little. I mean, you get like what 15 seconds or something like
Yeah,
that, but like Peacock, like in the middle of a movie, there'll be a 3 minute commercial, like 3 minute worth of ads in the
yeah,
middle of your film. I remember I was catching up to all the John Wick movies this year before the fifth or sixth one came out,
yeah.
and the commercial was just killing the vibe, man. Like you're anticipating something happening, like oh, dude's about to go down, and then all of a sudden, 3 minutes worth of ads. It's like, bruh, yeah,
Yeah, for
but
something you're paying, I feel like it's like
doesn't make sense.
similar to like going to Korean barbecue, or like, and it's like, I'm coming over here to cook my own food. Like,
Okay, so I've also thought of that too. I see all my friends at Korean barbecue, and don't get me wrong, the food slaps, but at the
yes,
same time, it's like okay, so you're gonna learn something about me. I'm a pretty frugal individual.
okay,
Like I dissect things of like how I spend the dollar. So like you're telling me I'm gonna pay X amount of dollars to go to your place, you're gonna give me the food, and I'm gonna cook it myself. I can't buy that, dude. I haven't done Korean barbecue in like 5 years ever since. Yeah, I
wow.
don't get that concept, man.
We went to fucking Hot Pot the other day, and it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was so much anxiety because, like, they're just these four, like, boiling like pots of soup, and like everyone's reaching over each other, putting things in the soup. You don't know who put what in what. Like, am I eating someone's meat that they put in the soup, or like, is this the one that I put in? Like, fishing for your meatball
Right,
and shit like that.
right.
It was stressful.
And don't get me wrong, like I love paying for a great experience. I don't mind paying a premium for certain things. Um, I just make sure like it's got to be worth it. Like if the experience is amazing, I don't mind paying top dollar plus a tip or whatever. Like but if it's shit that does not make sense in my head, it's just like I'm not doing it, man. Like I don't know, and that's why I translate that to my own business where if I'm working with someone or an individual, like I make sure to give them the best experience possible so they know that their money that they're investing into our work is worth it and they want to keep hiring me back over and over. So I always make sure to like be as fucking dope as possible to them. I
Yeah.
don't know, explain it. So trying to correlate the experience and whatnot. But yeah, man, it's been working out so far, I think.
Dope. Dope shit. Before we get too ahead in conversation, I forgot my whole spiel. This show is sponsored by a live studio. If you're interested in creating a show of your own with this camera switching and all the different angles, please go to bookalivestudio.com, book a discovery call, and we look forward to making your show ideas come true.
Shouts to a
Um,
live studio.
yeah, thank you. And also, on the other plug, feel free to go check out everything the Modern Creative, which is Alberto's podcast. You can scan the QR code down here, hop over, check out all his episodes. Today's going to be a little long recording day. We're doing two back to back. I've never done that before, but I'm
You know,
excited. I got the energy
I
for
know this is gonna be my first back to back that I could think of. Yeah, it's a lot of talking. But
it.
yeah, I've scheduled a couple of times where I'm gonna do back to back guests, and then life happens where we have to reschedule. I'm like, damn, like after the first episode, I'm like, man, that would have been super exhausting. And then knowing I have another interview to do is like, for example, like people like, I don't know if you're familiar with the No Jumper,
Mhm.
Adam 22. He does like 2 to 3 interviews a day. I mean,
Jesus,
yeah, he's a strange individual, but like I really acknowledge and I really admire his work ethic. Just that's because
that's
he's a
crazy.
little weird. But
That's wild.
him doing 2 to 3 interviews, and he does really great interviews in my opinion. He
Mhm.
knows how to ask the right questions and whatnot, and he does his homework obviously.
Yeah,
And it's like, bro, like that is a skill. Like talking, this looks so easy.
yeah.
So I understand why people want to start a podcast from the jump, but it does take a skill and like mental toll to like be able to hold these conversations
Mhm.
and provide value at the same time.
Yeah, I think I know him. Yeah, I definitely know him. He's the guy who like he has the podcast with his wife, and like I believe
They
they're both sex workers, right?
Yeah,
They're
they're
both
like
porn
porn
stars.
stars at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's I'm not gonna lie, that's super ingenious. Like the idea of just like interviewing other porn stars and then doing your scenes with them afterwards, like that's fucking
Business wise, just
brilliant.
yeah. I mean, morally, definitely not for me, but it's like it works for them. So it's yeah. Like I said, he's a strange individual, but
Yeah.
like he is a content machine, and it's we're clearly in the podcast space and in the content creation space. So it's something like I kind of have to admire, man. Like I respect the work ethic that
Yeah.
they're doing on their end, but
I love that he for us like when this is our big shtick. Like this is we've been filling out this brand and coming up with a life for a live studio. Our whole thing now is like we build shows around business goals, and that is a pure example of like building a show around your business goal. Like, hey, I am a sex worker, I am a porn star. Like, how do I create a show that kind of like funnels me, gets me
mhm.
more leads or does this for me? And then on top of that, like he seems to have all the right pieces around him so that he can afford to just record 3 episodes back to back where he has like a fixed set. And that's honestly what we're trying to do with like evolving this space to the point where like this is always set up. You get me? Like when we're done, the couches just slide back, the tripods come over here and
Yeah,
park here, stayed up, so that we can make it as easy as possible
yeah.
and just like get out of our heads. Going off of that, like, can I ask, like, because you started this year very strong and you're still going, like you're still running through.
Just dropped
What
episode 33 today.
what was the inspiration behind that?
So I've always been a podcast fanatic since like 2014, 2013. The first podcast I can remember listening to religiously, and I still do, I was actually listening to it on the way here, is the Joe Budden podcast.
Okay.
And with Rory and Maul, the old crew.
Oh, Rory, yes.
Goddamn, bro. That shit was. I've always been a fan without knowing. Prior
Yeah.
to me discovering podcasts, I've always been a fan of talk show radio.
Hmm.
So here in San Diego, what I would listen to a lot in the mornings, like on my way to work and shit, is I would listen to Rock 105.3, the show. And that was like, I mean, clearly it's the radio, so it's going to be very PG and really poppy and bubblegum friendly shit like that. But like, I always enjoy people just having good conversations or about certain topics or current events like that. And then I discovered what a podcast was. I remember it was like my Maricosta College days. And then I found out the Joe Budden podcast, and I'm super into hip hop. And they were talking about hip hop stuff and what's going on in the hip hop space and whatnot. And obviously they were talking, cracking jokes, talking about their life experiences. I'm like, bro, this is the shit that I love right here. Like, it's unfiltered. There's no ads.
Hmm.
They could curse and they could really speak their mind. And
Yep.
if you want to crash out, you can crash out, and it's for my enjoyment. And so I've always been listening to podcasts ever since. And I'm like, man, it would be cool to create a podcast, but I've never seen anyone such as like a quote unquote nobody have a podcast that sounds pretty professional. Because
Hmm.
he's a, for example, like Joe Budden, he's an old artist, rapper and whatnot. So he has experience and he probably has connections to like audio equipment and cameras and whatnot. So I'm like, to me from the outside, I'm like, this it's got to cost an arm and a leg to produce a podcast like that. And then uh, a local podcaster, Alyssa, she, I would see her podcast. I believe it's called Coffees and Convos,
Okay.
and she was something like somewhere like in the same playing field where like I know this individual, I could actually touch this person, and she's producing a high quality podcast. I'm like, shit, so it is possible to do that. What do I do? Go to YouTube. How to start a podcast. You need a camera, you need a mic, and that's pretty much it. And then
Yeah.
how to upload, how to edit, all that good stuff.
Were you doing like video production prior to this? Like,
So yes,
okay,
I
cool.
at the time I was doing video production. I was filming content for the most part, just personal travel style content,
Okay.
the drone stuff, the just sunset photos. I was like that typical sunset shooter at that time.
Are you from San Diego natively?
Yes, I am.
That's why you guys got it. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And so I was doing it at the same time, but I always wanted to create my own podcast. And then the pandemic happens. Obviously, we have a ton of time in our hands, and so I'm like, man, I have an itch to create, but I can't really go outside. And so I hit up my buddy, who's also a photographer, Peter, and I said, hey, dude, how about we start a podcast, man? And I've always wanted to do a podcast with like friends, kind of like the Joe Budden podcast does,
yeah.
because doing it individually is just fucking, it's hard, man. Talking to the camera by yourself,
Hmm.
and we could touch upon that later. But like at the time, like, hey, let's do this. We could like talk about photography stuff. What is it that we love? What is it that we hate? What's annoying? What's social media and all that good stuff? So he's like, bet, let's do it. So we did during the pandemic, and I thought it was pretty good. Um,
It was really good. I loved it.
and
You guys, I realized how like big you were when like I saw like friends of mine who are way taller than me go on your podcast, and you guys made them feel so small. Like, you're tall, dude. But no, you guys did an amazing job with that podcast. I was watching. I
yeah,
was there.
yeah, and then it kind of ran its course. We took a little break, a little winter break, and then it kind of just never really happened again. But I always knew I was going to continue doing this podcast. Um, I knew that I wanted to just create my own podcast. And so I took that year off to reflect, do my own work. I'm still doing video production,
Yeah.
got married. I told my wife, Kristen, like, I'm going to
Congratulations.
create a podcast at the top of the year. We got married in January 5th. We got home from our wedding because it was a destination wedding. We got home like mid January. And that same fucking week, I'm like, I'm recording a podcast. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to figure it out. And it's been going pretty well. We're 33 weeks in so far, and been loving it.
Oh shit,
Yeah.
man, that's awesome. Can I ask? So, like, the want for a podcast was really to like, almost like, is it creating like? Do you eventually want to create another revenue stream, or is it solely to like because you love this like kickback nature of talking and like no agenda, just like you can go as deep on any topic as you want and like.
Yeah, I've never been the individual to do shit for money, man. I personally don't give a fuck about money. I never have, never cared about status, never cared about having bling bling shit. Like, I own like 20 of these black shirts that you could get in H&M for like 15 bucks a piece.
The
Um,
Steve
I
Jobs
own
approach.
I own like 3 dark Levi jeans that I wear throughout the year. I'm very just like very plain and simple. And so for the podcast stuff, I didn't really care about the views. I didn't really care about the numbers. Um, I just wanted to have good conversations and just that just filled my cup, my creative cup, because I didn't travel for the most part during the pandemic, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't really pump out any personal content. And I've always had an itch to create, from the very jump. And just the podcast stuff was really, it just kind of like a therapeutic feel for me.
Yeah.
So we're just talking and just talking our shit, just having some fun with friends and just having drinks as well. And so like that just to me was like the greatest feeling ever, and it still is right now. Just having conversations with you, getting to know individuals and whatnot. I never thought about it as a transactional thing. I mean, trust me. I mean, if I have a million views and listens and whatnot, sure, I'm down to like
Yeah.
obviously get something out of it. But for the most part, like I don't really care about that shit, man. Even till now, like with the little success I've had in my own personal podcast, I to me, it's just not about the numbers, man. It's always been
Mhm.
about just having genuine connections and genuine conversations. And I know it sounds super cliche, but I actually
No.
fucking mean this shit. Like,
No, like I understand it completely. Like though like you're not getting value from a monetary perspective, like there's still value to be had in terms of like people say when you start a podcast, you learn more about yourself. You learn, in order you learn how to communicate better. You learn how to communicate with others. I wonder like what are the benefits, if any, have you seen in terms of like that side of things? And even though there's not no monetary, like have you gotten any like benefits in regards to like networking or like
yeah,
leads or things like that.
definitely. I mean, the people that I've connected with, there's definitely a handful of guests that I could think of at the top of my mind right now where I have them in the podcast and they connect me to their network. And then from there, it's been going pretty great for me. Again, I'm not looking at it as in a monetary way. I just want to have good connections and great conversations. But I mean, if someone says like, I remember having a photographer and she introduced me to a ton of her networks. Like, hey, you want some video stuff? This is the guy you want to talk to, and shaking hands, kissing some babies, and then now we're like doing pretty good business right now. Just based off the podcast. It just happened so very organically. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, I love that it came out so organic. It wasn't like, you know what? This person is clouded as fuck. I'm gonna reach out to that person because she's clearly busy or he's busy, and I want to tap into their network.
Yeah.
It's never been like that. In fact, it's been the opposite. They like hit me up to be a guest, and then it just happens just by chance.
That's dope.
And as far as like what I've learned just through the podcast space, like, yeah, it's sharpening my blade as far as like public speaking. They say people's worst fear is speaking in front of the public, and so like I wanted to face that fear and just start talking to the camera because that shit is really scary. Talking to the camera one on one, it's looks very easy. Everyone wants to be an influencer and talk about products or talk about their skills or whatever. But once that camera turns on and that freaking dark lens is staring straight at your freaking soul,
Hmm.
it's easy to choke up. And
Yeah.
I know that because the people that I film, they take it as like, oh, it's gonna be very easy. I'm gonna talk about real estate. I'm gonna talk about medical shit or whatever. And then once I hit once I hit the record button, they just choke up or they stumble on the words.
Oh, we've had that. Oh,
So
I've
it
seen people fall apart.
and that's why I like to tell people like, hey man, like when I'm working with someone, especially if it's their first time working, I'm like, hey, like the best thing you could do to as I'm prepping them before the shoot, the best thing you could do is like go in the mirror and just talk to yourself. Get used to hearing your voice because most people hate their own voice.
Hmm.
I've got to the point of doing podcasts for like 2+ years where I actually enjoy hearing my voice. So when people say I
Wow.
hate my voice, is like, yeah, I remember when I was there, and then I would get some compliments like, hey, you have actually a pretty good voice. I'm like, word, like I didn't know that, like, but all right, cool, like I'm rolling with it.
I got this ASMR.
And so yeah, just learning how to like public speak a little bit better. And of course, I mean, I could always get better. I could always get a little bit finer. I have my slang days. Like today, I'm keeping it super laid back right now,
Mhm.
and I do stumble on words here and there, but it's all good though, man. It's like to me, it's just like little baby steps, and as I do this weekly. Shit, I can only imagine what's gonna happen in 100 weeks when I do when I'm doing 100 weeks worth of podcasting. So when I'm talking to a potential client or a business or all these suits, it's gonna be a breeze for me.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I love to see the like the overlap in growth and how things spill over from just choosing to put yourself out there in one specific thing. And it doesn't have to just be podcasting. It could be anything. Just the
Mhm.
consistency helps you grow. One question that I like to ask people here is when you hear the words copy and steal, what does that mean to you, if anything?
I was gonna ask you that question on our interview.
Okay.
But,
I'll answer.
um, what is it? Good artists copy, but great artists steal.
Yeah.
Paulo Picasso.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that is because of your YouTube video. But what does it mean to me? Shits. I mean, I agree. Obviously,
Yeah.
I take little bits and pieces from creatives that I truly enjoy, and I bring it into my own with my own flair and twist.
Yeah.
Um, my own sasson, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I try to, for example, like I could really, it's gonna sound like I'm freaking copying for sure. But like, there's like a YouTuber, and he always does the whole like on his own YouTube videos, like, "How are you doing? I'm such and such. I am well. Thank you for asking." So I excited, like, just naturally started doing that. I'm like, "Fuck!" Like
I saw it in your
I
video
didn't
the
mean to
other
do that, but it kind of
day.
just roll off the tongue. So it's like little things like that. I'm just paying homage, but like I'm not trying to rip people off. Like I'm not gonna see something and just replicate step by step. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna take something. I mean, the greatest directors out there, they do the same thing. All the movies, for example, Joker is literally essentially Taxi Driver,
Wow. Yeah,
if you think
it
about
really
it.
is.
And so like he took from the greats and he put his own flair and his own twist to it, and the Joker became a great film. I know like movie buffs want to kill that movie because it's literally Taxi Driver, but
Yeah.
it's the modern time, and I think it's necessary, and it's I think it's pretty chill.
Yeah. Okay.
What
Cool.
do you think about that?
For me, like I agree. Like we stand on the shoulders of giants. You get me? Like there is no such thing as an original idea, and like you said, like we are just pushing things forward. We're pushing the needle forward and bringing our own life experiences into things. And like I like to say, we're all like uniquely the same. Like we're all built of the same parts, but in a unique order
Yeah,
based on like how you were raised and what you were exposed to growing up. And I think it's important for everyone to push their message, even though if they think their message is similar to someone else's. You get me? Like that doesn't matter because you might resonate for someone that person will never ever resonate for.
right.
You get me?
Yeah, and I mean, anyone can make a video of the latest Sony FX3. Everyone can make a review for it.
Hmm.
There's like 25 YouTubers that literally talk about the same thing. But when I see a YouTuber or an educator, content creator, I try to go with people that align with me.
Hmm.
And there's a few out there that I'm like, you know what? Like, I actually fuck with this vibe.
Can I
We
ask?
talk similar. But go ahead.
Yeah, what do you mean by align with you in regards to like they do similar work to you in terms of like
Let's say if it's an individual that has like an ethnic background, like I'm going to just align with them just from the jump.
yeah,
We come from a similar background, so like that to me, it's just like there's a sort of connection without even trying to connect. It
yeah,
just kind of just happens,
hmm,
and so the way I approach the podcast space in my specific field of connecting and talking to creatives such as yourself, or even talking about a specific piece of gear, like, I'm not going to go the Gerald and Dunn way where I'm gonna nerd out with the specific details of how shit actually works. It's beyond my scope of freaking knowledge.
yeah,
But I'm going to give you my general feedback with my experiences and where I'm coming from and whatnot. So like I feel like that's why it's so weird, man. Like having DMs from like people from around the world that are like, "Yo, man, like I really resonate with your word. Like I really like how you say certain things." And to
hmm,
me, so it's very important to stay authentic to yourself. It's very important to just literally be yourself. Don't try to be anyone else. Although it's very easy to like fall in that lane of copying other people.
yeah,
But going back to the copy and steal, like you take from either knowledge or the way they execute certain things, but you bring your own flavor.
hmm,
And that's no one's gonna have the way you do things. Like no one's going to say certain things the way only you could do it.
yeah.
I know I'm going like everywhere right now.
No,
I'm not used to being this side of the podcast space where I'm getting interviewed, but yeah, that's generally what I'm trying to say. Is like only you could do what you could do, and no one else can do it.
yeah. Can I ask, do you have more specific examples like along the lines of like your whole intro and how you took that? Like, do you have any more specific examples about how you've taken inspirations from Joe Budden or like, morning radio that you've like listened to that have come into not only your podcast, but even like the way that you work today?
Hmm. Specific examples that I could think of. Man, I'm trying to think. I know there is, but I'm on the spot right now.
It's all good. It's all good. I definitely should have given you a list of
No, no, no,
giving
it's
you
all
that
good.
quick.
I like to go in this a little blindsided, but as far as things that I could think of right now, I mean, I can't even think of the actual YouTubers right now because like I'm such on the spot. But like, I take things from like Peter McKinnon's of the world. The like I said, the my God, what is his
You watch
name?
good tech YouTube right now. I'm just saying, you got some good tech YouTubers that you've mentioned so far.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So like I see what they do and I try to implement it in my way. I know for sure like I'm not the super techie individual as far as like tech. Like I can't tell you like why there's 15 stops of dynamic range on the FX3 or A7S. Like I'm not going to be that person.
Yeah.
But what the only thing I could just do is literally just talk about what I do, my experiences, and if this specific piece of gear works for me or not. Coming from the background that I'm coming from, as far as like I shoot corporate stuff or I shoot weddings, like if you're shooting sports stuff, a certain lens may not be great for your style of work, kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah, I get you.
I don't know if I answered your question or not.
No. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. How you call it? I wanted to get into like the things that you do for work. So like what are your specialties when it comes to thing? Like I've seen you do a lot of corporate. I've seen you do a lot of like hotels and things of that sort. Like is that your space? Like what would you say is your niche?
When I first started, when I was working at the hospital, the Tri City Medical, I was like a transporter, where I would transport a patient from A to B in the radiology department. That's where I worked at for the most part. So I did that for 6 years.
Holy shit.
Hey,
That's a whole nother life,
I
my guy.
fucking hated that shit, bro. I hated that shit. And I'm gonna go to your question right now.
Yeah.
Long story short, I quit that 6 years in, and I'm like, I'm just gonna travel
Yeah.
and just shoot videos. And I don't know what I'm gonna do or how I'm gonna make it, but I'm just gonna make it happen. I bought a one-way ticket. My wife now. We bought a one-way ticket to Cancun, Mexico. We did the whole Yucatan area, and then from there, we literally just reached out to hotels and resorts via DM or email, like pretty much saying in layman's terms, like, sorry, it's like, yo, uh, your hotel is amazing. It's sick as hell, but your content is ass, and you have zero videos. And if they did have videos, literally a dinky iPhone video, so you know it's gonna be shit trash. So
Mhm.
I would tell them, like, hey, I could do this for you, and I'd show them examples of like drone work or just like walkthrough videos or lifestyle photos and whatnot.
Was this casual before like you even started? Like so you were playing around in this world while you had that other life?
I had
Or
quit my job and I just took off.
oh, so you just like started this clear and started building a portfolio and reached out
Right,
to
right.
bro, that's some cojones, my
I'm like,
guy.
I don't
That's
know what I'm
dope.
gonna do, but I'm gonna make it happen. And so thanks to YouTube, they gave me the balls to like give me that push.
Yeah.
And so we were doing that from Mexico through Central America through South America
Holy
for
shit.
6 months, and we were getting amazing work, like just staying at these hotels for the most part. I mean, obviously it's gonna be a numbers game.
Yeah.
You throw 100 emails, you're gonna get 3 to 5 that say yes, but it's all you need. All you need is like that one yes.
Yeah.
And then from there, we could decide which one we want to do, or if we want to just stay there a little longer and tackle all the hotels and whatnot. And so
That's
all I did as far as like, they would just compensate me as far as like free stay for 3 to 4 nights, meals that were like amazing, alcohol as well. So it's like it was a pretty decent fair trade for the most part. I never got paid for it, but all I wanted was the experience, and I knew that I could leverage this piece of content to when I get home. And so we did that for 6 months. Eventually got burnt out because you believe me, you do get burnt out from moving
yeah.
from city to city, country to country.
That's what wait, can I ask like how are you getting these emails of these like places where you just like finding
Instagram. I would just go like,
wow.
let's say if I was in Panama, for example, and Bocas del Toro, like I remember there specifically because that was like really popping for me. I would just put hashtag Panama hotel or some shit like that, or look into their geotag on the actual Instagram, and then from there look at their hotels, and then from there we would take like screen grabs and whatnot, and then from there we'd send them a DM, and then we also find their email address because if it says contact, you can see their email address,
Yeah.
and we made sure to do it both, like both DM and email. Sometimes we'll connect via DM, sometimes we'll connect via email, and then we just have good communications for the most part. I mean, a lot of them did just not respond,
Mhm.
and some will just respond no politely. But when it was a yes, then it would just game on.
Bro, that's wild.
Yeah.
That is some drive. And you keep saying we, so like is your
My
fiance?
wife
Okay.
now, like,
Oh, your
right
your,
now,
your
back
wife.
then she was my girlfriend. She was the one responsible of doing all the cold reaches and whatnot, and
That's
I was
dope.
responsible of creating all the content. And so we would never go out at night for the most part. Like we never party or anything like that.
Yeah.
So when we were like at home, we would just I would just create the content, and then she would just reach out to hotels and resorts. And we got to stay at some dope places, man. Like even places where like I don't even think I could even afford right now. Vividly remember staying in a place in Panama at a private island, and her and I went. There was probably like six other couples,
Wow.
and so when you're there, from like for the most part, they were like all pretty much older, and they were all like either in their honeymoon or anniversary. And so like when we like connect and stuff, like we did some like adventure, like snorkeling or something like that,
Yeah.
we'd get to know each other, and then they'd ask like, "Oh, so how long you guys been married for?" I'm like, "No, we're not married. Like, we're just." It's like, "Oh, so you just came here just to come?"
We're
It's
just
like,
power coupling it up.
kind of. And then I explained to them. They would obviously, it's like, "Oh, what is it that you do for work?" And I am like, trying to figure it out right now, actually." And then he's like, "Wait, so you're here for free because you're doing video work?" And back then, like, the video wasn't super strong yet.
Yeah.
I don't even think Instagram just recently rolled out the 15-second videos, I think, at that point. And people were just like, "What is it? That's even a thing?" It's come like in hindsight, it's pretty amazing to hear that, because like now everyone and their moms is a content creator.
Yeah.
They want to create videos and whatnot, and it's so easy to do. But back then, it was just a little harder to do.
Yeah.
Especially like I would just say like, "Hey, I got a drone,"
Yeah.
and people were just like, "Oh my god, you got a drone? Like we want some drone stuff." And
Yeah.
that was like the selling point right there.
Dope shit.
Yeah.
I love the drive behind that story. Can I ask, like, out of all the relationships you built with those hotels and businesses, like, were you able to like turn any of them into like paying clients?
No, it was just like, again, I wasn't really asking for much either. So it maybe if I would have said, "Hey, pay me," maybe I would have, but I just never put it out there. I wanted that automatic yes, so I just say, "Hey, I'll give you free content if you just let me stay at your place for a week." And
Okay.
for the most part, it just worked out.
That's pretty
Yeah,
dope.
and I
And you
thought it was
built the
pretty fair.
portfolio of work that opened the door for you to then get those
Yeah, and
clients,
so
right?
like eventually when I got back home, I reached out to a couple of hotels here in San Diego, and then people were saying yes, and then it's been going ever since. And back to your original question, yeah, I do a lot of corporate stuff. I love doing a lot of interviews right now, testimonials, product videos as well. Uh, I mean, when you first start, you start doing weddings and music videos, but I definitely don't like to do music videos anymore. I still do weddings here and there, but I don't really advertise, more like word of mouth. Like, "Hey, can you do a wedding video?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can if you want,
Yeah.
and if the money's worth it, then sure, I'll do it."
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it.
Bro, that's fucking awesome. I love that. Are you and your wife still working together in that?
She still has her own full time job. I'm still doing my own thing. She keeps telling me like, "Hey, I should just work for you," kind of thing, as a like do all the admin work, because I didn't love to do that at first, but now I'm like, I'm getting better and better at doing like
That's
the
my crux, bro. I
emails.
hate that shit with a
Yeah, and
burning
it
passion, but you need it. You
yes,
fucking need it.
yes, like I'm good at it, but at the same time, like I know I could be focusing on other things rather than just doing. I don't want to call them small tasks, but they're very vital tasks. But I could be doing something other, like editing, for example, or creating some sort of proposal for another company or something like
Yeah.
that. But right now, it's like it's still a learning curve, man. I'm still a one man band. I mean, I do contract individuals if I need to,
Mhm.
uh, but it's still a one man band for the most part.
No, that's dope, man.
Yeah,
I love, like, I feel like we're in the same like space in terms of that journey where like learning to like, all right, how do we scale this? How do we start to delegate? How do we focus on doing the things that like bring us joy and that we bring the most value to,
yeah.
so that we can, kind of trust others to kind of help us build this ship as we
And
go.
this is all still very foreign territory to me, man. Like I didn't go to. I mean, I did go to school, but I dropped out like twice. Like,
Okay.
and
What'd you go to school for?
bro, I was doing general ed.
Wow.
Yeah, graduated high school, then I went to Maricos as a community college, and dropped out once, and then it went back because I mean that was like the path. Everyone says like the American dream is you go to school for 4 years, get a career, get
It's
married, get the
funny how
house.
that.
Yeah, it's funny how that works nowadays. And so I vividly remember in my stats class, like I was like probably a few months in, and they're talking about this freaking huge long ass equation on the board, And I'm like, bro, what's going on? Like, I am so lost. And then I got to the point where, like, I remember where it's like, it just snapped into me. And I'm looking around, I started laughing, and everyone's like, what the fuck? Like, what was he laughing about? And I was like, man, fuck this shit, like out loud. And I just left. And then, like, I think like a month later, that's when I quit my job and I took off to South America.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's dope. That's fucking that's the dream. That to
Yeah.
me that's the life dream. People call like the American dream. Like that's the dream, just to be fucking your own boss and just I don't know. I feel like the pandemic made things very clear for me where it was just like there's no safety. There's no safe spot. And if I'm being honest, the safest people during the pandemic were people who build brands, people that had established brands that weren't gonna suffer from the pandemic. Why?
Yeah.
Because they're household names now,
Yeah.
and I think it's like I see a future where like everyone is creating content in some way. You get me? And like this idea of content like won't have this stigma around it in terms of like, oh, you put yourself out there. It's like, oh, cool, like you're bringing your value to the world. You get me? And this is the way that we communicate with others. Like
Yeah.
the internet is a shared conscious amongst all of us.
Yeah, and
Um,
going back to the American dream thing, like it never really sat well for me as far as like going to school for this much. And this goes back to like my frugalness. Like, wait, so you're telling me I'm going to pay for school, and then if I graduate, assuming I don't freaking drop out, I'm gonna be 60 grand in the hole, and then pay that back like within until I'm fucking almost retired. Like that just did not make fucking sense to me, man. And the reason I say that is because like when I was working at the hospital, some of the doctors that I was working with who were like well off, they were still currently paying their freaking student loans. I'm like, bro,
fucking
I
wild.
just don't get that. Like something in my head like just did not make sense. I'm like, yo, I'm not doing this shit, man.
Mhm.
And so like I've always like learned to like know the power of the dollar and whatnot. Like um I never been in debt because like I just knew like if I don't have the capital for shit, like I'm not gonna just swipe. Like
Yeah.
it just to me that doesn't make sense. And when
Mhm.
individuals do it, it's like, how's that even possible? Like if you didn't have the money for it, why would you get it then? Like again,
Yeah.
I like to keep it very black and white. And so yeah, so that just didn't make sense to go to school because I was thinking about going to like X-ray school for the longest, and then they told me it's gonna be X amount of dollars. I'm like,
I'll
wait,
see
wait.
my
And then
ass
the
out of
people that I'm
here.
working with who are x-ray techs, they fucking hate their jobs, man. And I'm like, wait, so I'm going to be you in like 5 years for the rest of my life? Like, that shit was so depressing to me, man. Like,
Mhm.
I remember going to work being depressed. Like, I'm like, dude, I got to spend 12 hours in this fucking shithole. And this is just the way the world works, I guess.
Yeah.
And then
Did you have what were if your passions, if any, like at that time? Like did you have hobbies? Like was there a release to get away from that stuff and like an outlet? And was that outlet tied to what you're doing
I
now at
was
all?
still, I was like in my like the baby era of like creating content.
Okay.
I started off with a GoPro Hero White.
Okay.
I saw a GoPro commercial, and then that's what made me want to do videography. Later in life, like I was never a creative kid from the jump. Like I played sports and all that good stuff, but other than that, like I never saw myself as a creative at all until like my early 20s. And so with that GoPro, I would film my brother, my friends, skateboarding, snowboarding, you name it, and then I was just super into the editing process. I mean, I was using GoPro Studios at the time. It's at this point it's pretty obsolete. And I
Did you say
remember
GoPro Studio? Is that like
it's
a
an editing software
holy
from
shit?
GoPro. That's how old that studio is. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't exist anymore. And I had a POS laptop that my mom got me from Costco for school. And it was obviously I don't know anything about computers, so I kept wondering. Like I would bring my computer to the hospital, and in between patients, I would just start editing. And then I would wonder, like, dude, why does my computer keep crashing? Like, I just do not understand. Like, and then I figured out my homie who was a huge gamer that worked there, and he's like, "Oh, bro, because your computer is pretty much a POS." I'm like, "Word," and he's like,
You mean piece of shit, right?
"Yes,
Okay, I was
yes."
just making sure.
And then he kind of like educated me. I'm like, bro, like I'm one of those individuals that's like, I don't want to know how to build my own computer. I'm like, build it for me. Tell me how much it's gonna cost, and I'll pay you.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, the hospital did pay pretty decent. I think I was getting paid like $20 an hour. Back then, it was like, I thought I was a baller,
Yeah.
especially in my early 20s. I was a fuckhead, just going out and shit like that. And so he builds me a computer that I'm still using till today.
Holy shit.
Yes, it's like 2016 or 2015.
As
Um,
your main rig?
yes, I'm still using it today,
Holy
and
shit.
it's still holding right now.
That's dope.
And so he builds it for me from I forget what the website called, but no free ads, fuck all that. And so we do all that, and then I get myself a laptop as well because I knew I wanted to travel one day. And thanks to like I remember like the Casey Neistats of the world, the Peter McKinnons of the world, they pretty much pushed me to like, yo, just do what the fuck you want to do, man. And then seeing like I remember also Lost LeBlanc, like back then I used to watch him a lot, and he was a travel influencer, and he still
Lost
is.
LeBlanc, you said?
Lost LeBlanc.
Okay.
It's I forget what his first name is, but his last name is LeBlanc, and he's still huge right now on Instagram and in YouTube. And so he would travel with his GoPro, and I'm like, fuck, if he's doing it, he's from Canada. He quit his job, a corporate job, and he just decided to travel and create content, and he was like popping off on YouTube. I'm like, why can't that be me?
Hmm.
And so that's what made me to like, you know what, put in my I didn't even put my 2 weeks actually. I just quit. And I'm like, yo, I'm out. I'm out this piece.
You guys are gonna treat me like this too, so.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's something I always tell like going back to the American dream thing. It's like I always tell my wife Kristen's like, bro, like your job doesn't even care about you.
Mhm.
Like they will get rid of you in a heartbeat, even if you dedicate 20 solid years with them and at your highest, like you're performing to the max. If they need to cut you, they will with no hesitation and just replace you with someone else.
Yep.
So it's something I always thought too. Like it never sat well with me. Like I would see people like back when I was working at the hospital, people were getting laid off left and right. Luckily, I never got laid off, but there was always that threat. Like when people knew that layoffs were coming, it was like fuck. People were just like scared and like, and in my mind, I was like, fuck. If it happens, it happens. Like you're doing me a favor at that point.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the balls enough to quit yet.
Yeah.
So I just that never sat well with me as well as like working for someone and just if they decide one day to just get rid of you, they can.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, no, I want to control my own destiny. I want to put my hands on the steering wheel and just, if I fuck up, at least I could point at myself like, yo, you messed up instead of being bitter and like, oh, my job got rid of me kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, nah,
Though doing taxes is a lot easier when you get
that's a
a
fact. That's a fact, man.
job. No, a steady paycheck. Helicopters, it's okay. End of the world. You know, we just had a hurricane. It's crazy how a steady paycheck can be a drug. You get me? It can be really addicting. I think for me, like I came from like the startup world, so I definitely like I hated it. Like you were always under the knife. Like there was always like, hey, you know, no funding this month, so we're downsizing and things like that. And my mom, like I grew up with my mom, and she would always say like, you either like, you know, you're either making your own dreams come true or you're making someone else's dreams come true.
Yeah,
And like when you're working for someone, like, you know, it's sad to say, but like you're more than likely making someone else's dreams come true.
right.
And I feel like it's scary because we've gotten to a point where like big businesses are like stifling talent and they're just hiring up all the talent and giving them shit things to do so that there's no competitor in the
Hmm.
space, so that, you know, there's no chance for me. Like I'm gonna hire all the best developers and make them make a button. You get
Hmm.
me?
Yeah,
And I think we're living through an interesting time because AI is coming into the mix now, and it's, you know, I'm not like everyone else. Like fear mongering, it's gonna take your job. You know, it's the people that are using AI that are gonna take your job now, and like it's only gonna get exponentially better. And it's just I see the world like I don't know. I was talking about it in a podcast with a mentor of mine, where it's just like I can see a world where like everyone has their own small business, and it's just a lot easier to comprehend. Why? Because you have this AI tool that will help you do the things that you don't want to do. You
what do
can't
you mean by
create.
comprehend?
Um, so like it's as like AI comes in and lowers the barrier for entry,
Yeah,
like there are a lot of things that when it comes to running a business that people don't like doing, just like for the admin
admin.
stuff
Yeah,
and like, you know, building LLC. I can see bots and tools coming out and just being specialized in those specific things. And I know all these other companies are probably like heads down working on it. Like, hey, now that we have access to ChatGPT and this stuff, like how do we build this into our solutions and kind of take more off of people's plates?
yeah,
And I can see a world where like someone wants to start a business and like they feel more inclined to do so. Why? Because they know they have a tool in their tool belt that's going to take care of all those things that they don't want to deal with.
That's already happening right now. I mean, I have a CRM where it sends out emails automatically, like by itself. Like if I shoot a proposal and I don't hear from them in 3 days, I have a setting where in 3 days you send a follow up reminder, like,
Yeah.
hey, what's good? Like, we doing this or what kind of
Yeah.
thing. So it's already happening. It's interesting about talking about the AI because I had a conversation with a friend of mine recently, and he asked me like, "Are you scared of AI taking your job?" And the way I see things is like, bro, like it's beyond my control, man. Like if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. People have been saying like, oh, there's not robots taking over for 20 years at this point.
Yeah.
And so the way I'm seeing it, it's like, well, fuck, like I might as well get on the AI wave right now and learn to adapt. Because the people that are not gonna adapt and are going against the grain is like, we want things the old way. Like back in my day, we used to do it manually. And like, fuck all that, bro. Like you're gonna fall behind and
Yeah.
you're gonna probably like be obsolete at that point. Like I want to adapt to it and like learn how I could use it to my advantage.
Hmm. No, I agree 100%. It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool, and like it's not only like will it help you think better, and like it will help you like it's like your own little like slave shop of workers where it's
Mhm.
like I want to see this in this color, that color, that color. All right, let's go with this option. Let's
And
keep
and
going. You
and
know what I mean?
something that we do, like, when it comes to filmmaking, my mind can't really register, like, a robot or AI somehow filming something for you. Because with filming, like, with filmmaking, it takes a human soul to create something and bring
Mm.
it to life from
Yeah.
an idea to life, like, I'm still trying to think, like, how can you make a robot create this podcast right now? Besides using, I guess, like, an avatar. That's
Mhm.
the only thing I could think of. But do people wanna see avatars? Like, I mean, with all these
Bro, it's
filters, I mean,
scary,
people look
bro.
like
Like some
avatars
of
at
these
this point.
avatars. Yeah. Oh my. Dude. Have you
So
seen that fucking trend on TikTok? The NPC trend.
I have TikTok, but I don't have it on my phone. My wife runs my TikTok account, my podcast TikTok
Yeah.
account. So I don't watch any of that BS. I try to filter as much BS as possible, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bro,
But do tell.
it's scary, bro. It's scary. There's this new trend, and I was doing research because we were trying to work with a client in the TikTok space, and people are acting like robots. People are acting
I have
like
seen the NPC one. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and they're just standing in front of the camera like as if they're like
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah. A
character in
character, yes.
Idol,
I have seen that.
and they just respond to emoji, and they're making money from it, and it's just like,
Hey man, the game is the game. I respect it. As stupid as it is, even if it doesn't lie with me morally, like I mean, I can't knock the hustle,
I'm
man.
not knocking the
If you
hustle.
are a simp that's gonna be giving money to a hot chick that's acting like a freaking video game character, hey queen, make your money, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not mad at it. I cannot be mad at it, man. Like you that person is leveraging the power of social media and AI or whatever you want to call it. Like, hey man, I respect the hustle. Can't be
Yeah.
mad.
Yeah.
Cannot be mad at it.
I'm a little afraid for like the side effects of just like you going out into your daily life after
I mean,
doing
yeah,
something
socially
like
they're
this.
probably going to be stunted, especially with the pandemic. I mean, people lost a year of school and kids nowadays. I mean, it's going to be an interesting. I'm curious to see how kids are going to be in 10, 15 years from now, man, because
Yeah.
I don't think these kids are growing up. I don't want to say normal the right way because I don't want to get canceled,
Yeah.
but it's a little different from how
It's
we grew up.
yeah, it's
Like I grew
definitely
up
different.
outside. I grew up playing football in the streets, getting my freaking knees bruised up on the concrete, you know?
Yeah.
Like I grew up biking and stuff like that. Like I go back to my mom's neighborhood where I grew up at with all my friends and I never see any kids outside, man. They're all I'm assuming inside on their iPads or PS5s or whatever.
Yeah. No, it's wild like as I'm going down this journey of becoming a parent, like these are all the questions that we're starting to
Oof.
ask ourselves now, and it's
Yes.
just like, oof, like I don't know. Like I want my child to be aware of like technology as a tool, but I don't want it to be a crutch. I don't want it to be the thing that they need and they won't survive without. I definitely want to like teach them like just the basics of just like design thinking and hard work and how things add up, and kind of knowing what came before and like what influences us
Yeah.
here now today.
Are you
um
gonna push your child to be in the creative space or kind of like let them figure it out kind of thing? A little bit of
whatever
guidance.
whatever he wants. Like I think my goal is like to expose my child to as much as possible and kind of surround him with whatever he's into, you get me? And if it changes one day to another thing, like all right, like let's do that, you get me? Like you want to play the piano, let's do the piano. Let's do more instruments. Let's get you something that, one of those like soundboards that you could be a guitar, or it could be a piano, or it could be whatever you
Right.
want. Or, if they want to get into something else, like we'll do that. I definitely think like schooling is going to be changing sometime soon in terms of like how we think about it. I don't agree with like the way schooling is now. I feel like it's definitely back in the Stone Age, just like getting people prepared to be factory workers. And the truth is, like, we're not that anymore.
Right.
We're now, like
But I still think
specialized.
it's necessary because imagine everyone being their own boss. I don't think society would work out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I
We
don't.
need someone to do the grunt work.
We do, but
As
it's just
messed up as
like,
that sounds.
at what point does technology allow that grunt work to be taken up by like, a robot or something? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like these things not only are like allowing us to ask better questions in terms of like prompts and like prompting AI, but they're allowing us to ask harder questions like, were we put on this earth to work 24/7? You get
Yeah.
me? Should we think about a 3 or 4 day work week? Should we think about, work as something different? Like I was talking about with my past mentor, he was like, do we start to think of like raising children and like raising the next generation as work? You get me? Do we start to tax these AI companies and like give more to teachers and things like that? Because, that's what we need. We need the
Yeah.
next generation to be able to survive in this world where like the old factory, get memory retention, getting things right doesn't apply anymore. I mean, I got a supercomputer in my pocket. It's about, you know, doing things with what you know. Like I think I've said this before. Like you can know the dictionary in and out, but like if you can't write a beautiful story with the words that you know, then you don't know shit. You
Yeah.
just know the dictionary in and out. You get me?
Yeah. And to simplify that, like I feel like most creatives, at least the people that I know, they consume all the content, they consume all the knowledge, but they don't actually apply the knowledge to them. So like something I want to push with my podcast, and hopefully with yours as well, is like, yo, take the lessons that I've learned and apply that shit to your own work. Like actually go out and shoot stuff. Like I get fucking bombarded with questions like, "Yo, should I get this lens or should I get this camera?" It's like, bro, your camera is good enough. Just go out there and master that shit, bro.
Hmm.
Like, just go out there, man. I feel like people are consuming. There's a term for it where you're just ODing on information and then you just get paralyzed because
Yeah.
you there's so much information in your head that you just don't know how to spill it out, kind
It's
of
like
thing.
was it analysis paralysis type
Exact.
of
That's
thing?
what I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah.
People just need to go out there, man. Like when today's man, like in today's world, like every camera is so good.
Hmm.
It's so good, man. Like back in 2016, the cameras were either dog shit or if the great ones, they would cost you an arm and a leg.
Hmm.
And I've worked my ass off to get that camera. But going back to the working 24/7 kind of thing, going back, I just don't get when creatives also say they get burnt out, man. It's like I really believe in working and chilling at the same time. Like I don't believe in staying up overnight editing and shit. Like
Yeah.
no, like I'm gonna get my shit done at an appropriate time, and I'm all about call it selfish, man. Like I really like want to like be good inside and out, like
Yeah.
mentally, physically, spiritually. So when people neglect that, it's like, bro, like no wonder you're fucking not, you're like the way you are
Yeah.
because you don't take the time to like reflect and check on yourself first. So
Yeah. Now, honestly, that's something that I am in like this. That's the journey of like the chapter of life that I'm in right now, which is like learning to love myself, learning to put myself out there and like start this show and just go forward. And honestly, I thank you for like being an inspiration because I saw you earlier this year like pick up and like I knew you had like in the frame beforehand and like you hit the ground running with this and like every episode that you came out with yours, I was like, shit, like I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to just get the ball rolling.
yeah.
And I think it is so important, like that full spectrum, like focusing on health. And you seem to have a really healthy balance. And
I try, man. I mean, even before videography, man, like back to my hospital work, I mean, they had amazing benefits.
yeah,
So I would take a lot of time off to like go to Mexico a lot and get to know that country, go to dope locations, exotic locations. And so like a lot of my friends are like people I ran into is like, bro, like you're always on vacation 24/7. It's like, yeah, but like you don't see the shit that I do to get there, man. It's
yeah,
like now with videography, like I'll fucking grind hard as fuck for a few weeks and then shit, if I want to take 3 weeks off, I'll do it in a
yeah.
heartbeat. What's stopping me is is my wife because she has like actually has a job. So like I can't just like peace out, see you in
Gotta,
3 weeks,
gotta
kind of. It doesn't,
delegate, man. You
especially
gotta
with the
bring
ring, it
a.
doesn't work like that anymore. But yeah, we've always been big fans of like working hard and playing hard, and I hate saying that because it sounds so lame, but honestly, that's the truth, man. Like I want to shoot some stuff, I want to shoot some fun stuff, and my mind kind of flipped. I mean, I've been reading a lot of books, like the compound effect, for example. Like that's what makes me continue the podcast every day. So I want to get that momentum, and just been dropping episodes, 33 episodes in now. It's like I can't just like stop. The momentum's just going right now.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just want to create some dope stuff. So going back to like doing videos for like music artists and stuff like that, or little mom and pop shop gigs, I was starting reading, and then I got surrounded by a couple of mentors, if you want to call it, and they pretty much told me like, "Yo, like you should be raising that price a few $1,000s." And
Right.
I'm like, "Word? You think that?" Like, it's like, "Yeah, man. Like you could be getting paid $5,000 instead of $500." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Fuck." So I slowly started like I'm kind of going everywhere, but like I slowly started asking for shit in the universe. I'm like, man, one
Are
day,
you a vision board guy? Are
not
you,
at all. I'm just
okay?
gonna say it out loud, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like, call it manifestation.
Yeah.
I said like, yo, man, fuck this shit. Like, I want to work for this hospital one day, making video content for them. Shit, a month later, that shit happens, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, I want to work for this firm right here one day. 2 months later, that shit happens, man. I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know how it's happening, but like, if you push it out there in the world, man, that shit actually does come in. And obviously, you can't just be like, I want to work for Nike, and then you just stay in the couch scrolling TikTok 24/7.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not going to happen,
Yeah.
but I'm putting in the work every single day. I'm crafting my work. I'm putting it out there. That's something a lot of creators don't do. They're so ashamed of their work. Put it out there, man. Whether
Yeah.
it's ass or not, like it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
And I started getting those $4,000 gigs, $6,000 gigs. I'm like, shit, can I get $10,000 gigs? $10,000 gigs come out. I'm like, fuck, can I get $15,000 gigs? A $15,000 gig comes in. I'm like, fuck, this shit is like endless, man.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm able to pick on a gig, work on it for, I don't know, a week or two. And then I could take the rest of the month, if not a month and a half off, if I wanted to, which I don't. But I have the liberty to do that.
Yeah.
And that's only in America, man. I love it.
That's beautiful, man. I love that. Like I love, being able to sit down with you and just absorb as much of that as I can. Like I that's where I'm at right now. You get me? Like believing in yourself enough to know that like you bring the value. You
Yeah.
get me? And you need to charge accordingly. And it's hard. Like you look out there and like it's easy to see like everyone else that's out there doing it and like feel drowned it out. Where it's
Hmm.
just like shit doesn't even make sense to get started.
And I don't want to hear no fucking excuses like, oh, like, bro, I am a Mexican cat from I guess, middle class. I don't know what the fuck, probably even lower than that. So I'm not that educated as well. I didn't go to actually like a great university or anything like that. So
Yeah.
it's like, if I could do it, I don't see why you can't do it, man. So
Yeah.
you put the excuses out there, man.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. It's a time of learning. Just go chase it.
Yeah. And so that's pretty much what I've been doing so far, man. Been working with amazing people so far. It took 6, 7 years to get to where I'm at right now, and I still want to do a lot more stuff. Like I still have a lot more inspirations. I'm currently working on my own passion projects outside of the podcast stuff. The podcast kind of fills me up throughout the weeks,
Yeah.
but like I also want to like I got in the videography space not to make money, but to make just cool things,
Mhm.
and naturally my taste and my visions have just evolved. And I'm a huge like Christopher Nolan fan, and I mean, who isn't?
Yeah.
And going back to how you said like there's no more originality, like I think he is the epitome of originality. Like in
Yeah.
my opinion, like films like Interstellar, Inception, they're not based off a text or anything like that. It's
Mhm.
all from the dome.
Yep.
And so I mean, I gotta respect that. Where like a lot of films nowadays are literally just either remakes or just off a book, which there's nothing wrong with that because
Yeah.
there's a lot of good text out there. Uh, and yeah, that's kind of pretty much where I'm at in a nutshell.
Oh shit. I don't want to take too much of our time because I know we got a second podcast. I like to end off with like, is there anything you think I should have asked you? Um,
Anything you should have asked me?
in regards to, creativity, or, whether it's like the typical, like, what's your, best advice for something, like along those lines.
Okay, I will say you. I'm gonna give you guys like top three educational advice
Yeah.
things that I listen to or read. I first of all, I recommend you read the book. I believe it's from the artist Russ.
Okay. Yeah.
I forget what the freaking book is called. It's like a yellow book. You cannot miss it.
Listen to
Listen to it
it.
or read it,
Yeah.
whatever. It's a very easy read. Trust me, I'm not a great reader. So it's a very easy read. That shit will spark a light up your ass, like, and you're gonna want to do shit. You're gonna want to go through a wall.
Yeah.
I'm reading that currently reading that right now for the second time or third time. Um, Read that. Also read the Compound Effect.
Okay. Never heard of that one.
It's one of those like just read
Okay.
it. It's on Amazon for like $5 or $6 or whatever. And then also listen to podcasts, man. I mean, I've learned so much from podcasts such as I'm trying to think of specific podcasts. I remember one of the first podcasts I was listening to that was in the creative space was called Black with No Cream. And it was from the guy who shoots videos for Jay-Z and Beyonce. But at the time, he was not anywhere where he's at right now. And he would interview creatives and you get some inside knowledge. So that's what inspired me to actually do my podcast as well, because that was the first time seeing creatives
Yeah.
having a conversation. And I learned a lot from that. So yeah, listen to good educational podcasts, whether it's in the creative space or business. Also read the Compound Effect and also read the Rust book.
Dope shit. Dope shit. And also go check out Modern Creative on YouTube. Thank you for joining me. Also, go follow Alberto on his social. I think she's going to put up your @ handle soon right here. Go follow him. Get in touch. Definitely. You said, like, is there any like new projects or things you want to like shout out? Anything you got in the works?
No, not really. I mean, as far as like the current docs that I'm working on, there isn't any, we're not there yet to promote anything at
Yeah.
all. But like, if you guys want to listen to, if there's a podcast you guys want to listen to outside of this podcast, definitely check out Modern Creative Podcasts on all your DSPs or YouTube
What's a
and
DSP? Oh,
digital
distribute. Oh, okay.
DSP, digital sound platform. I believe that's what I've heard
Okay.
someone say that. I'm like, oh, it sounds kind of cool. Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff, Google Podcast. But yeah, definitely check it out if you want to tap in. Shoot me a DM if you have questions. I'm always down to respond to DMs, whether they're dumb questions or not. So I'm always down.
Dope.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on this podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate that.
Thank you. You watch another episode of How to Copy and Steal. My name is Chris. Also, lastly, this thing is sponsored by a live studio. If you are interested in starting a show of your own with everything you've seen here, please go learn more at bookalivestudio.com. I look forward to hearing from you.
Before you close off, yeah, if you want to start a podcast in the San Diego area, LA area, this is the place to do it, man, because you're going to get your shit done within seconds. So
Yeah.
no editing like I do it. So you have no excuse and needed to create a podcast. Copying still is the way to go for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, man. All right. Take care, people. Bye.